Hello everyone, and welcome to Oracle Database second Thursday for September 2020. This month's topic is Oracle DataSafe, and in particular we're going to be talking about a feature we introduced in limited availability back in May, where DataSafe could support on-premises. This became generally available in August last month. But this month we're introducing a new method of connecting to your databases on-premises called the on-premises connector. And we'll be covering what that on-premises connector is and how you deploy it and how you use it. Just a reminder that the call is being recorded and that the recordings are available on the Ask Tom website, usually a couple of days after the session is done. We do these Ask Tom sessions just to give you a direct channel into product development. It's a place where you can ask questions that you can't get answered anywhere else. We also like to have a way to send out announcements about what's going on in database security, and then every month we do some technical content just to help with continuing education on the ever-changing field of database security. We start each session with announcements. Not a ton for September this year. It's been a relatively quiet month, but we do have a few things coming up that you need to be aware of. One of those is for Oracle Key Vault. We'll be releasing Bundle Patch 5, so that'll be Oracle Key Vault 18.5, sometime within the next few weeks. You can look for that later in September. For Oracle Audit Vault and Database Firewall, we'll be releasing 12.2, this is the old version of Audit Vault and Database Firewall, the one that's going out of support in March. Version 12.2, Bundle Patch 13 should also be available sometime within the next few weeks. Just a reminder, if you are still on Audit Vault and Database Firewall 12.2, we released Audit Vault and Database Firewall 20 back in July, and 12.2 does go out of support March of next year. So if you're not already planning your upgrade for Audit Vault and Database Firewall, this is something that you should be looking at fairly soon. Speaking of upgrading, if you are upgrading this month, during the month of September, we do still have the early adopter program that we announced during last month's session running, and you are welcome to join us. Just send us an email at the email you see on your screen, avdf20_launch_ww_group@oracle.com, and we will register you for the early adopter program. And what this gives you is direct access into product development for Audit Vault and Database Firewall, where you can get questions answered. If you have a service request that maybe you need a little bit of help with, we can help with that. But we're just trying to make sure that your experience in upgrading to this new version, which we're very excited about. Take a look at last month's recording if you want more details on that. We're really excited about this new release, but if you want help upgrading or you just have questions about it, please join us, and we're happy to have you. And that's it for announcements, and that takes us to this month's technical session. And again, what we're covering this month is Oracle DataSafe, which was a cloud service that we announced 1 year ago, actually 1 year ago this week at Open World. And originally, DataSafe was sort of a complementary service to our autonomous databases, which gave you a way to better secure your autonomous database. But it wasn't long after we released DataSafe that we began getting requests to extend support for DataSafe to other Oracle databases. The Exadata Cloud Service, Exadata On-Premises, the Exadata Cloud at Customer, regular databases running in the Oracle Cloud, the database systems, so high performance, extreme performance, standard edition, regular databases running on-premises, standard edition, enterprise edition. And so we've been working diligently over the last year, consistently increasing our scope to where today we can use DataSafe with any database in the Oracle Cloud, and I don't care if that's a database running on an autonomous database or an Exadata Cloud service or a database running on compute, and any Oracle database running on premises. And it doesn't matter whether that's an Exadata or an Exadata Cloud at Customer or an Enterprise Edition or a Standard Edition. It doesn't matter if the database is running on Solaris or Windows or Linux. Anywhere where your Oracle database resides, on premises or in the cloud, DataSafe is available to you. Now, If you're working in the cloud, it's kind of easy to set up DataSafe because everything is right there. DataSafe runs in the cloud, your database is in the cloud, the networking part of it's easy. If you're running your databases on premises and you want to connect DataSafe to it, then you first have to establish connectivity between DataSafe and the databases you wish to secure. And that's really our topic today. We're talking about one of the options for establishing connectivity. Once you've got that done, it's the same as a database in the cloud. You register the database, you assess you do all the stuff that DataSafe does for you, and you're good to go. Now, for those connectivity options, again, in the cloud, everything is easy. It's all right there. But on premises, up until now, what we've supported is DataSafe connecting to your on-premises database, either using Fast Connect, which is a for-fee connection. It's a dedicated connection between your organization's network and the Oracle Cloud Network, high-speed, dedicated, really fast stuff, or VPN Connect, which is a free option to connect your data center to the Oracle Cloud. Basically, you just set up an IPsec tunnel over the public internet, and DataSafe doesn't require a lot of bandwidth, so it didn't really matter. VPN Connect or Fast Connect, DataSafe works fine over either of those. The trouble with these methods, VPN Connect and Fast Connect, is that they do require you to make some changes in terms of networking. You have to set up this connection, this persistent tunnel. You've got to change firewall rules. There's a lot of things that you have to do, and you have to have a pretty good understanding of the Oracle Cloud networking to get everything configured. Well, we wanted to make it easier for you to use DataSafe on premises, and so we've been working on this on-premises connector, which you can deploy, and you can deploy this without having to set up a persistent connection. This isn't a multi-purpose thing. You're not worried about opening a tunnel that anything can come over. And most importantly, it doesn't require extensive knowledge of Oracle Cloud networking. So I don't know if you noticed, but on the last slide, I'll go back to it, this on-premises connector today is in limited availability. And what that means is when you go into your Oracle Cloud console, you won't see it, at least not yet. It will become generally available sometime in the near future, at which time you will. But today you won't. You'll first have to, let me go forward a little bit, apply for the limited availability program. And that application is done following the My Oracle support note 2699061.1. And don't worry about remembering that number. I'm going to show you an easy way to get to it here in just a few minutes. There's a couple of prerequisites before you can be accepted into the limited availability program. The first is you have to have an existing Oracle Cloud customer account. Trial accounts, they won't work. It has to be a regular Oracle Cloud customer account. You have to have one or more databases to test against. These are on-premises database. And we request, isn't really a prerequisite, but we request that you do us the favor of, if you're trying out the on-premises connector during this limited availability program, if you find any issues, that you give us feedback about those. Because what we do during the limited availability program is we get all of the feedback from customers like you that are testing it, outside of our normal quality assurance process, and anything that we missed in QA, this is our chance to fix it. We've been running this limited availability program for about a month now. We did announce it last month. We've had very good luck with it. We've already corrected several little minor things to make the on-premises connector easy to work with. You're going to see that in just a few minutes, by the way. But we would just like a few more people before we close out the limited availability program and move to general availability. All right, so this is what we need to do. Now, let's look at setting up the on-premises connector. And we're going to do this live. This is so easy that I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And, there's no magic, no trickery, no pre-recording. Well, but this is very, very easy to do. The first thing you've got to do is make sure that whatever you're installing the connector on, because you're going to download something and install it, is ready for the connector. And to do that, you're going to need a Linux server. It needs to be Linux 7. That needs to have Java 1.8 or higher installed with the Java home environment variable and Java included in the path. You also need to make sure that Python is installed, and the Python version has to be 3.5 or higher. let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, so here I have my server. I'm going to install the on-premises connector on the same server as my database server. That's fine. And I'm going to check my prerequisites. The first thing I'm going to do is, do I have Java installed and is it in my path? Which Java? Yes, Java's in my path. We can sort of see the version number from the path just because of the way I set my path up, but let's just double check to be sure. Java-version. My version number is 1.8. That meets the minimum requirements. Now let's make sure that we have Python installed. 2 dashes. Python is installed, but my default installation of Python was 2.7. That's what came with this particular Linux distribution. Now I've gone out and installed Python 3, but to check that I have to do Python 3-version. And here we'll see we have Python version 3.6.8 and it's in my path. So we do meet the minimum requirements to do the on-premises connector. All right. Let's go ahead and download it. So to get to the on-premises connector, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to open up a browser and we are going to log in to our Oracle Cloud account and we will go to DataSafe. Now, if you're not already in the limited availability program, this option, on-premises connectors, will not be visible. You have to join the limited availability program. And I'm sure all of you memorized that Moss note that I talked about earlier, but if you didn't, don't worry about it, because right here, while we're in limited availability in announcements, we tell you support for on-premises Oracle databases via the on-premises connector is now available in limited availability. Let's learn more. This will take us out to my Oracle support. We'll go ahead and log. And two-factor authentication, so give me just a second. And as you can see, this takes us straight to the Moss note that talks about the limited availability program. So again, all you need to do, apply. This is just open an SR. It tells you how in the program. From here, we go to on-premises connectors once we're approved for the limited availability program, and we're going to create an on-premises connector. I'm going to create mine. Just because we have compartments set up and I want to use my compartment permissions, I'm going to create mine. I'll call it the Ask Tom connector, and have to put something. You don't have to put anything in there. Description is completely optional, but we'll go ahead and do it. We create our on-premises connector. You always wonder when you're watching a video, did someone like cut time out? I am not editing this. This is real time. It really does happen this fast. So it's ready to go. Now we're going to download the install bundle. We have to give it a password. We've given it a password. I'll use this later on when I try and start the connector. We click our download. And my bundle is being generated. It's now ready for download. And again, this is real time. I did not go in and trim this video. We save it, and we're ready to install it. So I saved it at my downloads location. There's my connector, and I'm gonna, let's just get rid of the Chrome. I'm gonna unzip it. And I'm going to take a look at the README file, which has everything you need to know in it. So we'll take a look at our README file, and what we can see is these were the files that were in that zip file, And to install this, we have to meet our prerequisites. We've already checked this. Linux 7, we're at Python 3.6, we're at Java 1.8, so we're looking good there. And it gives us examples of our command. Now you'll remember, I have to do Python 3, so I'm just going to put that in there so I don't forget. And let's go ahead and run it. Go. It asked me for my password. This was the password I used when I created the bundle, not my OCI password, not my network password. It's just what's used to protect the wallet inside of this on-premises connector bundle. So we're installing it now. That's already done. We can just go back and say we want to see the status of the connector. And we can see that what has actually happened in the background is we have installed Connection Manager, Oracle CMan. We did this on the port that we decided to create it on when we used, I just used the default 1560. And we are now up and running and ready to begin working with DataSafe. Now, the on-premises connector connects to DataSafe by tunneling SQLnet over TLS on port 443. This is the standard HTTPS port. So as long as your network allows outgoing HTTPS traffic on the standard port, this is going to work. You don't have to open up any special ports. You don't have to do any special routing. You don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry if you're using network address translation. I'm using NAT. In fact, I have multiple layers of NAT. The server that I'm working on, that's actually a VirtualBox image, which is set up to connect using NAT. That is because it's COVID time. I'm running on my home network, so the NAT VirtualBox is connecting to NAT inside my home network, which connects to my internet service provider, who also uses network address translation. So I'm going through at least 3 layers of network address translation before I even get to the public internet. And none of that matters. I don't know if you spotted this, but when we were doing the install, if we go back to that README, I used the install that just gave the port. But if I were working someplace, internally, where to get to the external network I had to go through a proxy server, that's okay, because we're using the standard HTTPS port. We work just fine with your proxy server. All you have to do is define where that proxy server is. All of that stuff is just going to work for you. Okay? You don't need to configure anything in the Oracle Cloud Network. It really is this easy. Now, once you've got this done, you're now ready to begin working with DataSafe. And so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to register your target database and start using DataSafe. To register your target database, before you can do that, you have to create a database user that DataSafe can log into your database with. You're going to do this on every database that you register with DataSafe. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So here, I'm going to log into my database. And I'm going to create a user. I'll call my user ds$admin. That's just what I usually use for DataSafe, but it doesn't matter what the name is. I'm going to assign a password to that user. And I'm all set there. The next thing that I have to do is I have to run a script. And that script, to grant privileges, by the way, that script I could either download from DataSafe, or we've included it in the bundle for Connection Manager. So we'll see that's under the util directory. So I could just say, now I can go through and I can put arguments on the command line if I want here, or if I am lazy and don't want to remember what the syntax is, I can just hit enter and I'll be prompted. I'm going to be lazy for this first run through. So What user am I going to grant privileges to? I'm going to grant privileges to ds$admin. What am I going to do? Grant or revoke? I'm going to do a grant. What mode am I going to do? Which of these roles do I want to give? I'm just going to go ahead and give everything. If you were with us a couple of months ago when we talked about DataSafe and the things you should always do after registering a database with DataSafe, one of the things I told you then is in a production database, you never want to give this role. Now, this isn't a production database, but we're going to pretend like it because you want to train like you pretend. So we're going to bring back our last command. But this time, we're going to run it, and we're going to say to revoke masking. And we'll try that again. And one more time. That's in the util directory. There we go. Okay, so we've revoked masking. Let's just check and make sure our user can connect. So we're going to do SQL plus ds$admin at ORCL. Use the password that I set. There we go. And let's just check and make sure we have the roles that we're supposed to have. And sure enough, we do. We have assessment, data discovery. We're able to set audit settings within the database to provision audit settings. We're able to collect audit data for analysis. We're set up for capture if we're doing any type of Golden Gate capture. We're also set up to view audit data and to administer the audit trail. So basically, our system is set. We're now ready to go. Okay? So we now are ready to register our database. And for this, we'll go to the DataSafe console. All right, and let's just go ahead and do that. And we'll go to our overview. If you're already familiar with DataSafe, then you've seen all this. If you're not already familiar with DataSafe, I encourage you to take a look at the last database security session we did a couple of months back on using DataSafe, where we went through how to register and use DataSafe. But for now, let's go up to targets. We're going to register a target. We're going to give it a name. I'll just call it Ask Tom. We're going to give it a type, and I'm going to choose on-premises database. You can give it a description if you want to. Because I use compartments, I have to make sure that I check my compartment privileges. I'll do that. I'm not going to do private endpoint. Private endpoint is the way we connect to an on-premises database if we're going over Fast Connect or VPN Connect. Instead, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use on-premises connector. Again, if you're not in the limited availability program, this on-premises connector option won't show up for you, but we are, so it will. Okay. We select the connector we created. We give it an address for our database. Let's find out what that is. Let's see, our database is on 10.02.15. I know my listener is on 15.21. My service name is ORCL. The user I created was ds$admin. And you know what? I'm going to purposely make a mistake here, so I'll do ds$admin in lowercase, and we'll give it the right password. Now, the reason I say I'm purposely making a mistake is normally we don't think of database usernames as being case sensitive, but they can be. If you create your user with a username in double quotes, then you can force a lowercase user, and every time you log in, you'd have to use it. Because some customers do that, we had to allow that for the interface. So the username here is actually case sensitive. If I test this login, it's going to fail. Okay, so we failed. Now let's fix it. And all I'm going to do is change to uppercase. And we'll test again. And you can see we succeeded. Test connection is successful. We'll go ahead and register our target. This just takes a couple of seconds. Our target is registered. And there it is. We now have an on-premises database registered with Oracle DataSafe through the on-premises connector. So that is really all it takes to work with Oracle DataSafe. Once you've got this done, you do the things you normally do with DataSafe, which is validate your audit collection settings, create your audit trail, retrieve and edit your audit policies, run a security assessment, user assessment, perform sensitive data discovery, but you're all set up and you're ready to go. I want to thank you all for sticking with me today. This was a short Ask Tom session because this was really what we wanted to cover, but next month what we're going to be talking about is Audit Vault and Database Firewall, and in particular, how to use Audit Vault and Database Firewall to audit a Postgres database. One more reminder, if you are working with Audit Vault and Database Firewall 20 this month, please go ahead and join us in our early adopter program. The email address for that is on your screen. And with that, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions.